Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins made it clear this week there will be no amnesty for farm workers from deportation. While the dairy industry is searching for a short-term solution, there are also growing calls for a long-term fix for an issue that some producers say has plagued agriculture for 40 years. And that's this week's Farm Journal report. Known as the winter lettuce capital of the United States, this is where you'll find John Bolts.
We grow a wide variety of crops. Our main crops for the wintertime are production of fresh vegetables, cauliflower, broccoli, iceberg and romaine lettuces, that sort of thing.
Bolts farms in the far southwestern corner of Arizona, nestled next to the Mexico border, an area ripe for growing winter vegetables for both the U.S. and Canadian markets.
And then we also grow some durum wheat, cotton, alfalfa, tine. We'll try just about anything to try to lose money.
Farming for more than 2 decades, Bolts owns and operates Desert Premium Farms, while also serving as the president of Arizona Farm Bureau. And both on his farm and across the state, the biggest challenge Bolts hears and sees is with labor.
We've been chronically short of workers for well over 2 decades now, pushing 3 decades.
Bolts isn't shy about the fact he thinks the labor issues started in 1986. That's when Congress passed the Immigration Reform and Control Act, also known as the Reagan Amnesty.
Ultimately, in 1986, the laws were designed to be cumbersome to use H-2A, and Congress has kept the number of people legally allowed to immigrate into this country from countries where people could come to the United States from, has kept those numbers low and really limited the number of people that can come into the country and work in agriculture. That's a huge failing of our public policy.
So today, would you say the immigration system is broken?
Yeah, it's been broken since 1986. No administration has really taken up the issue other than little tweaks around the edges. That's why we're so excited right now to hear President Trump and Secretary Rollins understanding what they're hearing in the countryside, that really the laws that we have on the books are not providing an adequate workforce for agriculture.
Not everyone agrees that the Trump administration's approach on immigration has been a step in the right direction. This week, controversy swirled on social media with claims the Trump administration would grant amnesty to farm workers, something Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins addressed during a press conference this week.
The first thing I'll say is the president has been unequivocal that there will be no amnesty, and I think that's very, very important. I and the rest of our cabinet certainly support that, effectuate that, and make sure that happens every single day.
She says ultimately the answer is more automation, but what drew the most criticism during the press conference was this.
There are 34 million able-bodied adults in our Medicaid program. There are plenty of workers in America, but we just have to make sure we're not compromising today, especially in the context of everything we're thinking about right now. So no amnesty under any circumstances. Mass deportations continue, but in a strategic and intentional way as we move our workforce toward more automation and toward a 100% American workforce. And ultimately, it's the wonderful members of Congress behind me who are taking this on the fixing the current immigration system.
What's been in the headlines recently, of course, are these ICE raids, and some who are saying it is targeted agriculture. Are you seeing that in your area?
We haven't had any of that in Yuma County, Arizona, or across southern Arizona, but southern Arizona has a largely legal workforce. Yuma County in particular is unique in the country in that we have a legal workforce there. About 50,000 people working in production agriculture and a legal workforce.
Bolts says the farther you get from the border, the more challenging it is to find enough labor within agriculture.
We need programs that really address what we need in agriculture as far as on a labor basis. And many will point to H-2A and say, well, you have an uncapped H-2A guest worker program, and that's a valid point. However, I'd like to point out that H-2A was designed very keenly not to work very well, to be cumbersome, challenging, expensive, all of the things that don't fit very well into an agricultural model. That said, it's the lifeline that American agriculture has today.
H-2A is a program widely used in agriculture today, but one that has drawn criticism for not only the rising cost, but also how complex it is to use.
I don't think the system as it exists does enough to cover the vastness of American agriculture to ensure that we can protect our national security, by ensuring a full and robust agriculture community to provide food for Americans.
Donald Grady is the Senior Director of Legislative Affairs at the International Dairy Foods Association. And while H-2A is far from perfect, the dairy industry can't even use H-2A today, the one guest worker program that does exist.
The H-2A program, while it works for large swaths of agriculture, it doesn't work for dairy. And because of the fact that dairy is a 365-day-a-year operation, it doesn't matter Christmas, New Year's, your birthday, cows must get milked, and that milk needs to get processed for Americans to safely consume it. So we are looking to be able to expand the H-2A program so that dairy operations on farm and in the plant can have another tool in their toolbox to meet their labor needs.
Grady says in order for dairies to be able to utilize H-2A, the seasonality in the program would need to change to a year-round program.
But for processors, we need another specific change, and that is a change to the definition of agriculture, labor, and services. Right now, it does not include processing that does not happen on the farm.
So what you're talking about is an immediate short-term solution.
Yes. I think as we hear from our members, from IDFA members across the board, we are down about 10% on our labor needs. That accounts to thousands and thousands of workers. When you look at the fact that we are over 3 million in the dairy manufacturing, retail, and marketing side. So when you're looking at just in the plant, that's thousands of workers that we need. And this is a tool that would be able to help us in the immediacy.
The reality for growers like Bolts is no matter how high of wages producers pay, they are having more trouble finding the labor needed to fuel the U.S. with fresh produce and food.
The challenge is for the American consumers, they need to look at it from a fairness standpoint. A worker working in Mexico harvesting broccoli or lettuce that then is shipped into the United States might make $20 a day, where we're often offering around $20+ an hour to work here in the United States. So it just doesn't make sense. There's really no reason why we shouldn't be producing for the U.S. market right here in the U.S.
You've made it clear you need Congress to step in. But if you could tell this administration one thing that you need to happen right now that would help all of agriculture, what would that be, John?
I would ask the President and Secretary Rollins to take on a position of leadership, speak to both Republicans and Democrats in the House and Senate. We all know what needs to happen. We need to reform agricultural workers. We need options for agricultural producers. It can't just be, hey, you have a temporary guest worker program and then they go home. And we have cows that need to be milked, livestock that needs to be tended day in, day out, sometimes year round, sometimes temporarily. We need a program that's designed to work for American agriculture, period.
Now, ag groups telling me the momentum is there for meaningful immigration reform between the Trump administration securing the southern border and then increased funding passed in the One Big Beautiful Bill for ICE personnel and immigration detention centers. Farm groups say the time for immigration reform is now. When we come back, it was supposed to be a big week for trade deals and trade deadlines, but the Trump administration announcing more tariffs. That's Ag Around the World next.